what success looks like. It's not about the money, it's not about the fame, it's all about how you play for the game. Welcome to What Success Looks Like, the show where we talk about what it takes to achieve and where we meet awesome, uncommon, and exceptional people who look just like you and me. That's right, they're human, folks. We're talking to humans, and today we have with us another human. As a matter of fact, he's so human. This is where you say, how human is he? I'm going to say he's so human that he even puts it on his business card. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got with us today Chris Brogan, speaker, author, and owner of Human Business Works. Chris, how are you today?
Mr. Kennedy, I am blown away by the production values of this show. That's how I am. Oh my gosh, I've never. That's amazing.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. We try to make you comfortable here.
You're a producer. That's all I got to say. I mean, I didn't, usually I hang out with somebody looking off into the woods and, mumbling and stuff. I mean, you had an intro and everything. I'm sorry to, break the professional cool of the show. I'm pretty sure no one goes on Jimmy Fallon and goes, wow, what are these, sets? But I would. If I were ever brought onto those kinds of shows, that would be me. What, is this a real desk?
Yes, exactly. Good, man. Well, I'm just thrilled to have you on today. We've connected a little bit on Twitter and spoken about some brief things, and I've looked at your posts and your tweets and your site, and I think that you're just an awesome person to know. We're going to play a little clip in the show later on where people can see how awesome you are. Humorous or funny is really the thing that grabs me. But I just wanted to talk to you today about a few things. We're talking about success, and your business is Human Business Works. Can you tell us just a little bit about Human Business Works and what it is that you do?
Sure. So it's morphed a lot, but in its current iteration, we are a publishing and media company, and I mostly sell courses and other kinds of educational materials. So anything from speeches to courses to books around things that I think will help you do your work or do the work that you want to do, only better. Okay. So for instance, I have writing stuff. I have stuff about how to work on this digital channel that we're all seeming to have to deal with and contend with, although you're clearly a master judging by this amazing intro. And I have courses how to do better with your productivity. My guy Rob Hatch wrote a course called Work Like You're on Vacation, which is kind of how we both get in and out of the business by 11 a.m. or so that we have the rest of the day to do what we want to do. So that's what I do. I mean, in a nutshell, I make courses, do speeches, write books.
All right. So that's awesome, man. So you say get out of the office by 11 a.m. Is that really, honestly, truly what you do every day? Your day ends at 11 a.m.?
My work is done for business, money making, by 11, and then I have the whole rest of the day to do what I want to do. And sometimes what I want to do is hang out with Mr. Kennedy. Sometimes what I want to do is I want to just go to the gym and work out a little bit. Right. Other times I want to write stuff, and write books and things, which is work, but it's just not the work that needs doing, Right. And I think that, Rob Hatch created the course based on this belief that, when you're on vacation and you get your family with you or something like that, it's amazing how much work you can stuff into a really short amount of time so that you can go run off and not think about your phone for a while when you're with the kids. Right. And he said one day to his one of his mentors, he said, hey, how come we can't just work like we're on vacation all the time? Right. Click. It went in the head, and I was his first guinea pig, and it's totally kind of how we work. There's some exceptions to the rule. There's days where stuff just busts it down, but, more often than not, I am done before lunchtime.
Right. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your favorite type of client. Who are the types of people that you absolutely love to work with?
I would say that the thing that separates the favorite from the not is really just somebody's willingness to fail and pick up again, and the willingness to try new things and not get it the first time. It's so hard, because everything we learn after a certain point is about we shouldn't fail or we shouldn't mess up and we should never make mistakes and we need to know everything. But when you're a little kid, no one ever watches a 13-month kid fall down and go, oh, forget it, stop walking. You might as well just get a wheelchair because you don't even know how to walk, you dummy. Right? But that's 13 months. Somewhere in there, we decide that that's what we're supposed to do. We're never supposed to mess up. We're never supposed to stumble. So, I mean, my ideal person, nowadays who takes my courses, I have some people who work at really huge companies, which is who I used to work with in the past as a consultant. So I would work with Coke or Pepsi or Microsoft or Google. Now I get employees from those companies kind of working on their own and choosing to come to my stuff. And right alongside them, I have I have a 76-year-old guy who is leaving his job as he'd owned an art gallery for a while, and now he's just trying to figure out what he plans to do next on the web.
Right.
He's one of my favorites.
Awesome. So, I mean, you're doing stuff that a lot of people envy. Again, we said that you get off at 11 a.m. during the day, and a lot of people are grinding until 6, 7 p.m. some days. Man, how did you get here? What's the backstory? Everybody's got a backstory, some more interesting than others, but what's your inspiration? How did you get here? What's the backstory behind HBW?
Well, I would say that I did what a lot of people do early on. I mean, I worked crazy hours, and as soon as the kids fell asleep, I'd be working on something, or as soon as, I was out of work, I was into work. I was always trying to figure out ways to get ahead. And, a lot of times we do that with a lot of things, right? We try to just muscle through. We try to really power into our success.
Right.
And, a lot of times it's finesse. I mean, I'm learning this right now with working out. If I go to the gym twice a day, it's not benefiting anything because, my muscles need to heal before I can do the next step on them. And if I take them out and beat them some more, it doesn't make them bigger. It just makes them more tired. And so, it turns out that we do that with a lot of areas of our lives, right? I mean, we try to muscle through our love. We try to muscle through our money problems. And every time we do something like that, one is we seem desperate, and that never helps anything.
Right.
Two, we seem pretty confused because we're getting so fatigued, right? I mean, so many of my friends I watch people tell me, oh man, I slept like 2 hours. I sleep 10 hours if I can help it.
Right.
I go to bed about 8:30. I get up about 5 or 6. And I love it. I feel like an old man when I go to bed at 8:30, but I get up awful early and I have a whole lot of time to do the stuff I feel like doing.
Right.
All those things contribute though, Robert, because, I mean, where I came from before, I worked a, regular job like anybody. I worked at the phone company for a while, and then I worked in a wireless telecom. I did all different kinds of jobs, including project management and IT stuff and whatever. And then when I quit and joined the circus, so to speak, it was just really under the mindset that, there's so much cool stuff we can do with media. Like, we don't have to wait for someone to choose us. And that's probably another part of what goes on is that, I get the opportunity to connect with people and tell them that you don't have to wait for permission. You could choose yourself. That's the most exciting part, I would say.
Awesome. So we all have people that inspire us. Who inspires you, man?
Richard Branson. That's an easy one. I can tell you, right away, Sir Richard Branson is probably one of my favorite inspirations. He's a guy who is, he had education problems growing up. He had a loving, very middle-class upbringing, but he didn't have a lot of wealth or anything like that. He didn't come from anything. He decided to start the first thing he did was he started this school newspaper. Right. And he did so well with it that he sold it and actually made money off of it. And from that, he decided to build a record distribution company. And in that process, he broke the law. He didn't quite understand that it wasn't going to be okay, that he was taking records and tapes that were slated for export, which meant that they were priced and taxed totally differently. There was no tax against them. And then he was selling them in his record store, thus undercutting everybody else. But of course, the government didn't go for that. So he got in some real trouble, got fined and all this. Yeah. And so he came, he started in the hole. So here's a guy who's done that, now owns 400 companies, lives on his own island, and is now using all his money and his wealth and everything else to not just have fun, but really work on kind of changing the world and helping people better understand corporate philanthropy and cause marketing and stuff like that. So he's a pretty good, guy to model oneself after.
Awesome. So you have been involved in media in some way, or technology in some way, for quite some time. I want to show everybody a clip really quickly of you at Social Media Camp where you were alluding to your book, Google Plus for Business. Let's see if we can get that running real quick here.
And they said, let's go make social really make sense. Let's go make sharing make sense. Let's really get this. Now, when I wrote this book, I had no idea that the entire collective universe looking at the book is going to be like, oh my God, I don't want to get on another social network. Like, I had no idea it was I've had enough social networks day at class when I launched Google Plus for Business. I've had real live grown-up CEOs that look like Hudson and run companies and things like that go and look at me and go, I don't want to be on a social network. I just figured out Facebook. And I'm like a grown-up man, and I'm like, well, get a pair. And I asked him, I said, how's that AOL working for you? So can I join your top 8 on MySpace? Like, I can't believe you were bringing MySpace back. I'm in there now. I'm totally using it because MySpace has only 2 things, hookers and comedians. Those are good people to know. Funny hookers. Good people to know.
You could be a comedian yourself, man.
I am a comedian myself. Comedians have to work really hard to make $50 though, my friend. I get a lot more than $50 to make people holler.
Awesome. So, I mean, tell me a little bit about this whole social media camp. I don't remember if I read my information correctly. Are you one of the founders or one of the hosts of the social media camp? But you were just invited. Okay. All right.
No, I'm just an attendee. I founded something called PodCamp, which is probably why the confusion.
Okay.
Actually, it's funny timing. You know, the day that you and I are recording, the social media camp is going on again up in Victoria, British Columbia. But no, it's Chris Burge, who has a similar sounding name, and another guy whose name I'm totally not going to remember, are the guys who co-founded it. Right. And, you know, I just had the pleasure of flying up there and saying dumb jokes to them all. And, but no, I mean, I've been doing that. I've been mixing humor into my speeches for about 3 years now. And what I found is that a really sage philosopher, Mary Poppins, said just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Right. And that's really what I do on stage is I'll say a dumb joke and then I'll make a really salient point because you're waiting for the humor. And so what it does in your brain with that method is once the important thing comes into your head, once a funny thing comes in your head, I've primed your brain to be like, I can't wait to hear what you say next. And then I say the thing I need you to remember. Right. So it's a trick, to be honest. It's like a magic trick, only not as interesting as David Blaine.
Oh, all right. So we're talking now by the magic media of Google Hangouts on air. And you wrote this book, Google Plus for Business. Tell me a little bit about Google Plus for Business and maybe a little bit of the advice that you might have for businesses that are considering that.
So I wrote a book called Google Plus for Business because I felt that business professionals would want to understand what's the value in even bothering to learn about this new social platform. Right. And it's astounding how few people wanted to learn about that because, and I know this because I watch the book sales and I just think, oh, what a bad idea I have done. But the premise is just that, so imagine the #1 search engine in the world is run by this company. And then imagine the company says, I think I'll start a social network because it does seem to matter how social sharing impacts what people really want to find nowadays. I think I will pay really close attention to what people do on that social network. And I see people going, the #1 way for me to have my business found by people who can pay me money just offered me a way to actually connect with people. I think I'll forget it and ignore it and go back to Facebook, which you can't even find if you Google anything. Good plan. So my time in sharing with Google Plus for Business isn't that, you know, people say the strangest things to me. My friends aren't on there. I said, that's fascinating. Are your friends in your store? Are they the ones standing on the other side of the cash register with the money out of their pocket? Because that's who your friends are on your social network. Go on Facebook to look at pictures of your grandkids and go on Google Plus to land some business. So to me, it's a absolutely overlooked by far too many people platform, and it just needs a lot more attention, I'd say. Okay, awesome. So with regard to, let's look at some advice that you might give to small business owners, people in general that have a dream or an idea. What would be the most important thing that they could do today to find success in their business? You don't mean on Google Plus, you just mean in general, Robert?
In general.
Serve your customer. I mean, that's really on my mind because I just wrote a post about whether or not local business deserves your money. And I am forever baffled by how many people think that the transaction ends at the register. And it's no matter what your business is, no matter what you're selling, if you are selling in such a way that your transaction involves getting money out of someone's pocket, then you have a requirement of sort of maintaining some sense of relationship with that buyer. Unless you're selling something, if you're selling popcorn, it's probably okay, as long as they don't actually get sick while they're eating your popcorn.
Right.
But beyond that, most of our businesses have a relationship management part. You know what the least used part of any company's efforts are? It's on relationship management. They don't do anything to retain the people that they sell to. They have no idea how to nurture those people into further purchases. So, I mean, really, ultimately, I would say if your customer really is number one, then treat them like that. Because most number one customers feel a lot like they're number two.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So give me a short story or anecdote. You mentioned an older gentleman earlier, somebody that you have coached, somebody that you have consulted with through Human Business Works that you've seen really either take off or find success. What is a story that you can tell us about success?
One thing that I'm very fortunate to be able to do is work with hundreds and hundreds of people via my courses. So I really get the opportunity to see lots of people do things. So for instance, I have a writing course that was called Blog Topics, the Masterclass. It's going to reload it, just calling blogging the Masterclass. And this guy, Chris Lima, suddenly had a huge spike in his traffic after taking the advice that I put out in that course. And so what I enjoyed in it was that this big, long education in how to blog better, how to create more interesting content and all that immediately turned for him into this beautiful graph of a line going up in a really strong way and, a lot more success and more response to what he was working on. I have a few more stories like that. Tanya Daka is somebody she's in my Brave New Year course, which is just really about how to build more on your confidence, your personal acceptance, build your ability to give yourself permission and the effort to execute. And she's doing all kinds of really great stuff. I mean, she's actually helping edit, or she's entirely editing a brand new ebook that the people who took that course are writing together. I have very little or no input in it except that I wrote a couple parts of it.
Right.
But they're creating a book together. So I mean, it's those little things that make me happy. I mean, when I did my consulting before, it was really large companies, and a lot of it's not really stuff I could talk too in detail about, except that it was never as satisfying because it was always just an opportunity to work with some really big company, kind of help them figure out a couple things. And then whether or not they did anything of any that I could point to and go, oh, I helped with that. It's really hard to see. It's a little bit more sausage making at that part.
Right. Awesome. So we're kind of wrapping up here. Now, we joked on Twitter this morning a little bit about success being 6 feet, wearing suede wingtips and having brown eyes. So, Chris, for you, man, what does success look like?
And by the way, I love wingtips, but I would say that the answer to success for me is being able to say yes to what you want to say yes to, and being able to say no when you don't really want to. Right. And I mean that mostly in the sense of, when I've had client work, we've all done it. I mean, anyone who's done any kind of client-based work, there's a time when you say yes and it's the worst fit and you shouldn't say yes, and it's going to be a bad job and they're going to complain and they undercut the price or something and it goes horribly. Right. And that's just not going to ever help anybody. So success to me is kind of living on your flag. And that doesn't mean ignoring everybody around you. It means making sure that you're true to who you are, you're true to the goals that you've set out, you're true to the family that you want to have around you, be that your biological family or the people you've chosen to make your family, and that you just refuse to settle. Awesome. Because that's settling, I would say, is probably the enemy of all great success.
Great. Well, Chris, man, I thank you so much. It was great. Let's do it again. Let's bring the gang together another time. And everybody, this was Chris Brogan. I'm sorry, messing up his name. Chris Brogan, and he is what success looks like now. Everybody, I just want to remind you, to be bold, be exceptional, and remember that every moment is just an opportunity for you to create something new. Today, Chris Brogan, what's success? Hi there, I'm so glad that you were able to join me today. I want to talk to you about one thing really quickly. A lot of us have goals, a lot of us have dreams, a lot of us have things that we want to achieve. And the reason that we can't achieve them is due to one thing. That one thing is fear. Fear is the barrier that stands in between where you are now and greatness. Fear is the obstacle that you've got to overcome in order to get to your success. And I want to be able to help you do that. So I've put together a book called 28 Days to a New Me, A Journey of Commitment, that just came out, and you can grab that for your Kindle or for your Nook on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. 28 Days to a New Me is about creating powerful transformations that'll change your life. It's about redefining commitment. It's about being bold and being exceptional. Go online to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com, grab a copy, and see how you can change your life.